Hello, Planet Sewers. Welcome to my third and final video for the CangoThon ZooLittle that I did with Ravenclaw. Make sure to check out all these other creators that are participating in CangoThon, whether they're making videos or streaming this upcoming weekend, all to raise funds and awareness for CangoThon or the Cango Wildlife Ranch. So what we are doing today is we are building a meerkat habitat, and then we're also going to make this zoo able to have free roaming peafowls. So I got the file back from Ravenclaw after he did his 3 builds. So tomorrow his final episode should launch. And so I'm just building over here in this little space that he left me for the meerkats because I forgot them. And I must say, he left me the perfect little spot for them. He even outlined it in rocks for me. And when I was looking at it, I thought, well, I will just lower the terrain right here, and that should keep them in. And we will build ourselves a little meerkat habitat. Had I known that, I think somebody said meerkats can actually climb, I would have added a little bit more for them. I did not know they had climbing abilities as well as their new digging abilities. I had decided I didn't want to go with that little temple theme. Over here, I was trying to match this into the rocks that are in the background. I didn't quite get there color-wise, but I'm going to cover it with rocks anyway, so the little difference is okay. And I just borrowed different rocks that Raven had already put in so that I could get the same look and feel, hopefully, that he had already masterfully done over there. And then what I really wanted to do was put in a guest gate, mostly for the staff, not for guests, because I do want to have the peafowls in here. And I did edit out that part of the barrier. It was very tricky to get it to work. So essentially, I just mostly went all the way around the zoo. But my first try, I had tried to attach it into Cheetah Habitat. I tried to just connect it right on, but unfortunately the game couldn't read the habitat and it gave me some errors, so I did have to make sure that it didn't connect into any of the other habitats. So that was a little bit of painstaking moving around with the null barrier. So I did take that out, but really all it was is just going around and making the entire habitat encompass the zoo. That didn't quite come out right, but anyway, you get my drift, I hope. So here I'm like, okay, so I'm going to put this guest gate here. That was to keep the peafowls from getting back there, because part of their barrier is stretching towards the back of the zoo right there. And when I get done building this around there, I realized it took out their habitat gate. So they were just so close to each other that I was unable to have both. So I ended up just putting the path back in and readjusting my rocks since it didn't quite place in the same spot as the other one. Blending in that little section right there since it's a sandy path. The grass kind of, I don't know, bothered me. So I felt like it needed to have more of a deserty feel right there. Continuing on with the rock work. Originally I did try kind of a wood covering over here, but I didn't like it. And so I ultimately decided to torture myself with some more rock work. It really is not my most favorite thing to do in the game. It does look really great when you're done. Sometimes it's kind of mindless. Other times it's not so fun. I have to think about it. Other times it's just time consuming. It takes a lot of time to get it right in some areas, depending on what I'm trying to do. But I thought that turned out pretty good to go with that rock background that's already there. So we have meerkats running everywhere. So I was wanting to make sure they can't escape this little section I have built for them. And upon first inspection, they can get out over here. So I had to bring some more rocks around, and I just grabbed a couple groups of them and just copied those over, and then gave them little nudges, and then I'm going to use that kind of as my template as we go along the edge here to create their little barrier. And originally I was just going to leave it just like that, but when I got done, I decided to go ahead and fill that little section with water. I wanted to make that kind of look like a path right there, even though it's not. But it goes, I suppose. And then I'm going to use the African sunshade set here and go ahead and match it to the other ones I have, except this time I'm using the triangles and building just a little sun covering for guests as they walk by. They can get out of the sun and watch the meerkats, connecting it through right there. And then I just duplicated that and stuck another one right next to it. And then I'm going to use the little path blocks that automatically go in to kind of resemble my supports, I guess, for this little fence here. So they have a barrier between the guests and that drop off in case anybody decides they want to get too close and fall in. If it were real life anyway, in the game they won't. That would be horrible, wouldn't it? Like you have to really watch your guests' terrain maps. That would probably crash the game, but that would be an interesting aspect to have. You know, having to worry about guests actually being able to get off the path and fall into your exhibits and habitats. Anyway, so moving the rock work around to cover that edge right there. Originally I wasn't going to, but then I didn't like the look without it, so I think it looks much better with it. And then I do go back around from the other side and tuck away some of those to make sure they're not peeking out from underneath, and then blocking off that little corner right there. And to keep the peafowls out of there, I just put in a big fence, which was actually 3 of the doors from the new Africa DLC. And I put in a little water pipe for the peafowls so that they have access to water, since they cannot get into anybody else's habitats. And my meerkats needed some shelter, so I decided I would use these wood pieces to build them a little hut in the back of their enclosure. And there's where I decided I was going to go ahead and just add a water feature for them. It kind of acts as a barrier, and also it gives them a water source, and they really are just running all over. I was going to put a little bubble enrichment, but it kept flattening so much of the terrain, I took it out. I was a little sad about that. I thought the bubbles were fun. And then those meerkats were struggling to get in there and use that, so I went ahead, probably because that shelter won't be enough for them if you leave the zoo running and they multiply and they have more, because I think I stuck maybe 8 in there. But I did want to make sure they had enough enrichment and hard shelter for them. So giving them just a little bit of plants. They don't really require a whole lot. So really for them, it seems like they don't care how much you give them. So it was more about just giving the habitat a little bit of scenery from the plants. And I wanted to make sure that the meerkats were visible for the most part, but they do have some shade and things. And then I grabbed this from my other speed build from episode, what is that, 3? Yeah. And just copied it over here. And here we are. This is putting in the tow truck that Romano made me. I'll link it again. I thought I had put this in the first episode, but I guess I stuck it over here because I edited all of them at the same time, but I didn't do voiceovers at the same time. So the joke goes, I had put in the random car, and the link to that is in the first episode if you want to get that from the workshop. And I shared a screenshot, and Pausley made a joke saying, I don't know who John is, but he is parked in my spot. So I was like, oh, I have an idea. So I changed the license plate to say Paul. And when I got done with this build, I had the idea that I should actually show John being towed off. And so Romano was wonderful enough to take on the job and provided me with a wonderful tow truck the very next day. And since I had put Paul in, who organized the CangoThon with Cango Wildlife Ranch, I did message him and asked him for a couple of names that I could add to the front parking lot. So we are going to change the names on these cars. The first one I'm going to change is for Gazzy, but Gazzy is parked over here. Gazzy is in our Discord chat. I think it's a him. That's Garrett. So Garrett is known by Gazzy in our Discord server. And then we have the owners. So we're going to have a car for Andrew. So we're going to put that one here. We're going to get rid of this little section of the plate and make it bigger. I also was informed by the Park Insider and that those are Netherlands plates. If you didn't already know, I live in the United States. I live in Texas. So I had no idea that that was specific to the Netherlands. So Paul, you have a Netherlands car. So we've just got to change the name on the front of these. So I'm going to take off all that little extra so that the names will fit. And we're going to flip them around and get them on the other side of the car. And that one needs to be extended a little bit. It gave me a little bit of trouble. It was hard to get past the bumper on that car. And I chose white mostly just because in the images, most of the cars, I think all of the cars, were white. So I went with that. And then I noticed that they were all a little bit low, like they had flat tires. So I'm going to pop them all up so that they don't look like they're stuck in the mud. And there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I had a great time making these habitats and building this entrance for this project and for this fundraiser. I'm also most excited and very nervous about my first live stream. There's a peafowl on the roof. That's going to happen Friday, the 23rd at 8 p.m. Central. So hopefully, fingers crossed, all goes well and I don't run into too many technical difficulties. And I hope you have a wonderful day. May the RNG odds be ever in your favor.